start of a beautiful new week, and we just thank you for your presence here. We ask for your guidance during these discussions as we consider making some modifications to our county facilities. Lord, just help us to use our best wisdom that you will provide. We just continue to pray for the Russell family, Lord, and the loss of Sam. We pray for our servicemen and women, that you would protect them, ultimately bring them home safely. We turn the meeting now over to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item number, first of all, this is the 19th of May, and this is 9 o'clock in the morning, May 19, 2014. This is a special call meeting to go over some bid receipts on remodel projects, and it's just a few minutes after 9 o'clock. Item number one is public comments or requests on information on non-agenda items in accordance with Section 551.042 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Is there anyone that would like to speak on any non-agenda items? All right, then I'll move right on into item number two, consider and possibly award bid or bids for remodel of the adult probation offices in the vacant courthouse annex. I do have a request to speak by Nigel Christopher. Nigel, would you like to speak at this time?
Good morning.
Good morning. Is that on? Will you make sure that switch is turned? Or just tap it. We can tell it. Yeah. Okay.
It's on. All right. My commissioner, Al Riddle's on vacation this week, and he just wanted me to make a few comments. With all the uncertainty going on with Luminant, they were supposed to be filing a revised, obviously much lower, expected to be much lower valuation for their coal mine and power plant and everything. His message is basically, what's the hurry to go ahead and spend all this money when we've got all this uncertainty about our tax revenues this next 18 months or so as they go through their bankruptcy. The other thing I'd like to ask personally is, I think, Carl, we go back 2 or 3 years ago, you were telling us that we had we're maintaining a high fund balance, 6 or 7 million, because it helped us to get a better interest rate on the bonds.
Yes.
Right, we've sold all the bonds now, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. So, is what's going on here, is all this building, is that all coming out of the fund balance and lowering?
Yes.
So that's what you guys need to make public. That's what you're doing with the fund balance, lowering it, spending it on all this construction rather than making a conscious decision to either return it to the taxpayers or use it to better off pay down debt. So that's what I got this morning.
Thank you, Nigel.
All right.
I appreciate it. A comment that I would make there, and Carl, if you want to add to that, we need to continue to maintain a good bit of this fund balance until the loop project is complete. I don't know that was ever a motivation for keeping that high of a fund balance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was more to make sure that the loop project got completed. And the fact that we did have a strong fund balance was one of those results, not necessarily an intended result, but it did help us to get the lower interest rate, a significantly lower interest rate. But this loop project isn't over yet, and I anticipate needing some of that fund balance before it's over. But I appreciate your comments, and anyone would like to address that, or Carl?
The only thing that I would like to bring up again, and this has been mentioned a couple of times, but because of the fund balance, and because of the management and everything, can't think of his name out of Longview that sold the bonds for us. Ed Moore. And he had his figures. He said because of our fund balance and what we had and how we have done things over the life of those bonds, it will save the county around $9 million. Had our fund balance not been in good shape, and we say we had a lot of debt out there when we did the bond election, then that money would not have been saved. We'd have had paid more. So That's one reason we were through the years trying to keep a good fund balance on hand, and I know Carl really watches this and has been a big part of us creating that fund balance. But you had the unknown, and we really didn't know what was going to happen. But the one thing that Mr. Moore brought to our attention, I didn't realize it was that much, but he did say that because of the good finances of the county, that when we borrowed the money, did the bonds, because of that, it saved the county about $9 million. So that's a pretty good return. So.
Now, the only other thing I would add is we didn't save up the fund balance to lower the interest rate. We saved up the fund balance because it's a $160 million project, and nobody knows if it was going to run $165 million or $155 million. So you had to have a reserve there to be able to finish the project. That's the number one reason that the fund balance is there. Just as an attribute of that, the fact that we show the fiscal responsibility through the years to save up that fund balance and to maintain that fund balance and to actually increase it in some pretty tough times, showed that we had a court and a leadership group that was pretty conservative and pretty sound in their financial practices. If you'd have just had a fund balance and a whole new commissioner's court had come in that maybe wasn't as conservative, you could spend that whole fund balance. And it wasn't Ed Moore that made those calls. It was the bond people out of New York and Dallas that don't know us from Adam. They just looked at the history of the county's finances and the history of the people. They asked who's on the court, how long have they served, who's the auditor, who's the treasurer. They look at all those things, and they make a decision based on all of that, and that's why we got the low interest rate. But that's not the reason we saved up the fund balance. The fund balance was allowed to cover any cost overruns that occurred and may still occur. As far as the Luminant deal, Luminant's already lowered their value from 2008. It was a little over $900 million to about $450 million. I'm sure they're like every other business. They'll try to argue that the values are lower than even that, but they've already reduced them $450 million, and the county has done a pretty good job of weathering that storm. If they lowered it to zero, they wouldn't move it but another $450 million. I don't want to make light of that. That's a lot of money, but this court's already done a pretty good job of handling $450 million of an adjustment. We do have 2 power plants in the county. One of them obviously is still going to be here. They're spending $400 million to have it upgraded and remodeled. So we're very blessed in that regard. Hopkins County, Lamar County, they don't have any power plants in those counties. So for the last 40 years, we've been very fortunate to have power plants here. We may not always have them, that's a fact, but we'll have to learn to deal with that, just like Hopkins County does, just like Lamar County does, just like almost every other county in Northeast Texas has to handle it. So it's certainly not anything we'd be looking forward to, but you have to be able to deal with it, and you have to still be able to provide the services that are required to be done. We have to have courts, we have to have a jail, we have to have jailers, we have to have, if you look at our budget, that's where most of our money is spent. And you have to spend that, and you have to continue to raise whatever money it takes to do that. So that's all I got to add.
Well, as far as this project goes, I can only speak for myself, but I believe it's a shared feeling. The way that this project got started, I guess nearly a year ago, had nothing to do with, well, we've got a nice big fund balance, let's spend some of it. It had nothing to do with, we've sure got some old drab-looking offices, we need to, freshen things up. It was all motivated by safety. And we have a situation here, the way that the county is laid out right now, where we've got a mixture of public functions and purely judicial court functions that are mixed up. And we've got a lot of activity. The general public goes to the auto and tax payment and auto registration and the They're going in there in the midst of docket calls that seem to be getting bigger and bigger and more frequent because we have 2 judges that are aggressively working that docket. And we have a continuous flow of probationers coming into this main courthouse here that is another awkward situation. We don't have proper facilities for that department, and it just seems to make sense to me that we need to fix that situation. We need to get adult probation out of this building. We need to get tax payments and auto registration out of the district courtroom, and that's what we're accomplishing here. We're utilizing some of that annex space. We considered the remodel of the Riddle Street building, but we're able to come up with an alternative to that, which did not require us to purchase any buildings for these improvements that we're making now. We've efficiently used that Ratliff building, and we're going to efficiently use the courthouse annex. And although we may or may not be ready to consider the larger expense of building that courtroom at the present time, that's ultimately the objective, but it doesn't have to be done right now. We can make a major stride forward in providing safety for the public as well as employees of the county by getting probation out of this building and by getting auto registration moved over to the Ratliff building. So again, that was to go back in time and remind ourselves of what initially prompted this move. That's what it was.
Judge, I might also add that when we bought the WIT building, we bought it with all this in mind at the time, 5 years ago, or whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago, that this is what we had in mind when we bought that to make this expansion.
You know, there's never a good time to spend this kind of money when you're watching a budget and using public dollars. But anyway, I appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Chris, I'll turn it over to you then.
I've given you guys a bid evaluation worksheet, and just before we go through it, I want to kind of explain how we put this out on the street. We actually advertise for components, and the things you see on the left-hand side there, where under items like concrete, carpentry, storefront, drywall, electrical, that whole list was put out as a separate package, and the guys were asked to bid any one or all of those that you wanted to bid, just to give everybody a chance. Because one of the things that happens when you're in a bidding situation is you may have an electrical contractor that could bid the electrical but didn't want to bid the whole project. It gives it a lot more publicity to get out there this way, to do it as a component. I also offered, as you see here, that you could bid all of them if you wanted to do that. And we had 3 people bid all of them. D'Angelo Development, Richard Jones, and Castletop. Thomas Martin Enterprises and Larry Lawrence, general contractor, only bid certain components. Roberts Air Conditioning, Wood Air Conditioning bid just the component for the HVAC, but they were also sub-bids on D'Angelo, Richard Jones, Castletop, and also Larry Lawrence. What you see highlighted in yellow is I looked at the components and said, okay, which one of the components was the lowest price? So you can see across there, for example, Roberts Air Conditioner was at $62.50. We had bids of $95.40, $73.25, and then the bid from Wood at $25,631. So you can see that we were comparing components. And my goal here was to get the best price for the county and looking at how we combine these. When I did look at the 3 that bid the total project, D'Angelo, Richard Jones, and Castletop, you can see their total numbers. D'Angelo at $213, Richard Jones at $222 and some change, and then Castletop at $269. My estimate on it was $194,000. So everybody was over my estimate. But as I started looking at the components on everything and looking at it, I noticed that on D'Angelo Development, he had used the $25,631 from Wood. One of the things that Wood Air Conditioning did was they didn't bid what I asked for. They actually had some suggestions on how to make some changes to that. We talked about it, and I said, well, you can bid it that way, but I still need to bid the original way, and then you show me what your suggestions are for the changes. I didn't get anything except for his proposed changes. Puts me in a little bit of a predicament because legally, under the way that we do the federal projects, if you don't give me a bid on exactly what I asked for, you're considered non-responsive. I can't accept anything. But he had some good ideas, and he had some ways that would make the thing better. And one of the things that he suggested, the big thing that made a cost difference, is we were planning on reusing the 5-ton and the 3-ton unit that we had salvaged from the demolition. He didn't think the 3-ton unit was big enough, so he proposed a brand new 5-ton unit in there. 8 tons was enough to cool space, 10 tons is better. What has happened since then is we went over there and both of the units have been vandalized. So I'm not even sure they're even usable now. We're going to get in there after they get in there. Somebody broke in the back door and I guess went looking for copper. The temporary power that I had hooked up over there for the demolition was stolen. So they got the copper in there. They tried to pull the panel off the wall. They tore the door off of it. They tried to pull the panel off. And that's a hot box still, so I'm not sure that somebody didn't get a little surprise when they were trying to pull it off. But then they also started taking apart the units. I don't think there was enough damage on it to discontinue their use because they didn't get down into the meat of it, but they tore some of the top parts of it off. So we're still going to have that evaluated when the air conditioning gets started over there. But so what I did was I went back to D'Angelo, since he was the apparent low bidder at $213, and discussed with him. One of the things I do is I go qualify the bidder. So I went back to make sure he had his insurance. He's got all his insurance and certificates that he needs, as does Richard Jones. So I looked at both of the 2 low bids just in case I couldn't use D'Angelo. I also went through with D'Angelo and met over there and made sure that he interpreted the drawings and everything and the requirements the same way I had. And we confirmed that. We also discussed the HVAC difference. And he saw that I had a bid from Roberts that was at $62.50. Because Roberts was low on the air conditioning, I went back to Roberts and I said, just to compare apples to apples, I asked Roberts to give me a bid in his price that also included a new 5-ton unit, which he did. He came back at $12,550 for putting the new 5-ton unit in there. And that's what you see in blue under the Roberts. That was his revised bid so that I can compare apples to apples with him and Roberts. I also offered to D'Angelo that he could change out his estimate for Woods and use the one for Roberts, which would save the county $13,000. He decided to do that. He has given me a revised bid, which you see down at the bottom under D'Angelo at $199,784. So that brings the total with the management fee to $225 as opposed to the $220 that we had authorized before. And I will offer to the court, just because I don't like missing bids on what I thought they had, that I will lower my management fee by that $5,000 to put it back at the $220,000. So that's kind of where we are on the bids right now. D'Angelo has already been over there. He secured the building because we found out those units were damaged. I went ahead and authorized him to secure the building, so he has secured the back door, and he started to get over there and lay out. I told him to hold off. He volunteered to hold off until this meeting this morning, but he's ready to go if y'all are ready for him to go.
Is this a Titus County firm?
It is. D'Angelo Development is a Titus County firm. Their address is here, but they're doing work for Preferred. In fact, Preferred is the one that actually suggested that they come see me when these were out for bid. Came through and gave him a walkthrough, and he came in a little bit. So he is new to Titus County. I say new within the year, but he's a licensed contractor. He came from California, but he's licensed and was licensed in California. He's licensed here, got his insurance and everything. So he's good to go as far as I know on this. But like I said, the pricing is what it is right now. We are with my give back of the $5,000 of my management fee because, like I said, I want to keep this under what I told you guys. I don't like missing bids. That would put it at $220,000, and we would keep it under what we've agreed to before.
Chris, I have one question for you. When you were going out and asking for the bids, are you comfortable that everybody that wanted to bid on this got, I mean, I don't know if you put it in the paper.
We did.
Did put it in the paper?
We did put it in the paper, and quite frankly, I mean, I'll just be blunt about it. The paper doesn't get the response. I get better response when I personally call them.
Right, but if it's in the paper,
everybody had the opportunity
to see it.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the next item on the agenda about how the paper did not accomplish what we wanted to. But yes, this was put in the paper. It was put in the paper with all the sub bids, all the components, and the due date was 4 o'clock on a Thursday, and all the bids had come in before that, except for the Thomas Martin Enterprises. And I went ahead and put it here just so you can see the prices, but he was a late bid, so I really couldn't consider him even if he was low, because he didn't get it in by the due date.
So you're giving D'Angelo, he's going to be responsible for all components?
All of them except for the green wall, and I'm still negotiating with him on that. Nobody bid on the green wall, so I'm still.
But like, for example, under, you've got some figures that are highlighted that represented the low bid. You're not going to bring in Castletop to do the drywall and Richard Jones to do the millwork.
I will re-offer that to D'Angelo to do that. I mean, I'm kind of letting him right now, he's not the low bid on that, and Castletop is. I don't know if Castletop is interested in doing just the drywall.
Can we do that?
They bid on everything.
Can we come back, offer them another bid on that? If they wasn't a low bid to start with?
Say that again now?
Can we come back and offer D'Angelo another opportunity to bid after you already got the bids on the others?
Yes.
Richard Jones? I don't,
D'Angelo, if he is the low bidder, if we decide to award this as the low bid, is the 213 or his revised number at 199, then he has the ability to go back and this is what happens all the time, is and once somebody wins a project, they can go back and try to get a better price. They don't have to use who they had in there. And I don't know, for example, D'Angelo's got $9,000 on painting and staining. I don't know who he is using for painting and staining. They did not tell me that. He just gave me a price on it. So he didn't even tell me that he was using wood air conditioning at the $25,631. I just know the number is the same thing that I got on several other bids and I had for wood air conditioning, so I know he was using wood. But he has the ability to change that out at will.
As long as he goes lower. As long as he goes lower, he can't go higher.
He can't go higher. That's correct.
He can't get the bid and then raise the price after he got.
No,
What would be his motivation for going lower, though? I'm not following you. Even though there's some guys here that say that they'll, do the drywall for $3,000 extra. I mean, how do you deal with that? Do you say, well, since you bid everything else, we're going to let you do the entire project? Or do you say, we really want you to see if you can get Castletop to do that one component for you and get our bid down lower? I agree. Castletop's probably not going to want us to cherry pick just one single component out of there, as would Richard Jones. I imagine they got those prices down as low as they could, assuming they were going to do all the work, but I don't know.
The management philosophy that I was using on this was similar to the Riddle Street building, is where you guys have given me an estimate, a bid number of $90,000, and my job was to make sure it came in under the $90,000, which it did. It came in at $86,000. I see the same thing here, that you gave me $220,000 to deal with over there, and I'm working to do everything I can to keep it under the $220,000. So the ability to award these things could be, I could go back to Richard Jones and say, well, you could do the doors and hardware and the millwork and trim carpentry. Castletop, you could do if I wanted to.
If they
wanted to do. But I don't know that they want to do that because of the way they gave their bids in here.
But you can still ask them.
I could ask them.
I would suggest that you do ask them. Just to see.
you suggest go back and ask them, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, with Richard Jones, it may be enough money, that may be enough work that he'd be willing to do it for that. I don't know whether Castletop would want to come back for a $15,000 job. But Richard Jones is a $45,000 job. So he might be willing to do it for that.
I'm willing to do that if that's.
Well, I guess my question is D'Angelo expecting to do everything as it's laid out here and enable you to meet that 220 bid? Or are you going to say, I'm not giving you the millwork and trim carpentry work and the doors and hardware because Richard Jones gave me a better job, a better price?
I think D'Angelo's bid is based on doing all of it. that he knows about. And that was his willingness to come back and negotiate the fees down from the 213 to the 199.
Okay.
Was me helping him understand that there was another way to do that. So in essence, what we did was exactly what you're saying, is that we replaced wood air conditioning on his bid with Robert's revised bid. And so kind of helping him manage his cost to keep him under that dollar amount, which is what I see my goal as, is to keep it under the dollar amount. I've still got a lot of work to do as far as picking out all the materials. I mean, we still got to pick out the tiles and the colors and the trim work. And I still got to approve all of the doors and stuff. They've got to order. What they've got to do is, the doors are special doors. They're wood doors with transoms above it and windows in the doors, going back to that old historic look. What I've told all of them is that what they've got to do is, once they identify a supplier, let me have a look at the cut sheets and make sure it's what we're looking at. And so I'm still involved in the process as far as what they've got to put in there and how it's approved on all the details. So,
Where is the green wall on this
the
particular
green wall is
project?
on the south side where all that wire and stuff is. We're going to clean all that up.
Okay, the parking lot side.
On the parking
Okay.
lot side, and we're basically going to take out, I found out from, actually from Richard Jones, that there used to be a screen wall back there of wood block, and that's what all that foundation is back there, but that's been taken out. We'll take out all that foundation, put some growing dirt in there, and have plants growing up the backside of the building.
When you went out for bids, Chris, how was it worded? Was it worded any or all?
Yes.
Any or all?
It was worded you could bid on any component, or you could bid on all of them, or any combination thereof, which is what you see with Thomas Martin and Larry Lawrence. They did not bid on all of them, but they bid on several.
You might want to check with TAC or somebody, because what you might be able to do is accept D'Angelo's bid on everything but the millwork, and just tell him, because there's such a discrepancy there, we're going to ask you to rebid that. We're going to allow anybody else to. I mean, I don't know exactly how to handle that, but you probably need to talk to somebody with the Texas Association of Counties and see how we need to approach that. Or maybe, I don't know the answer to that.
Part of the issue is that these guys decided where the line was on certain things. So you see the discrepancy in the millwork and carpentry. You see that I had on mine, if I added millwork and the doors and hardware, I'd have been at 48 and a half, which is kind of where Richard Jones is. The millwork and trim that D'Angelo's got at 68,000.
But it may be that D'Angelo's using a totally outside crew that he uses sometimes, and he might be willing to go with somebody.
Well, and I go back to Richard Jones, though. Richard Jones has got 42,000 for the millwork and trim carpentry, but he's got twice the price
Right, in the
up in the carpentry at the top. Right. So I don't know how he's counting things. Right. And so I'm going to have to go, if I do this, and I'm willing to do that, I need to go back and sit down with Richard Jones and figure out exactly what he included in this price, as I've done with D'Angelo Development.
Yeah, it's hard to believe there'd be a $20,000 discrepancy on millwork and trim carpentry. It's the classifications,
I think
maybe.
it's where they counted stuff.
Right.
Well, I think that you gain some benefit too by going with, in this particular case, you've got one guy who's responsible for all of it, rather than two different guys that are, potentially in conflict. You're only having to deal with one individual when we have questions or problems on the job.
Well, my recommendation is to go with the D'Angelo Development. I will lower my fee, keep it under the 220 that y'all previously approved, and I will also go back to Castletop and suggest that he might want to get with D'Angelo. If he can do the drywall at a lesser price at $3,000, then D'Angelo would be more than willing, from my discussions with him, to lower it another $3,000, if that's okay with him. The other is if you wanted to, I can go back and talk to Richard Jones, clarify exactly what he had in his millwork and carpentry, and why his carpentry at the top is twice the price. So if I put all those numbers together, then
Pretty much the same.
it's pretty much the same. Yeah. It says 43, 45, 48, it's 88, and D'Angelo's at 89, if I combine carpentry and trim carpentry. So that's another consideration. I think they bid everything, but they kind of divided it up, so it's a little hard to
Different
compare.
classifications, yeah. One's double, and one's 20,000 high, one's 20,000 low.
The carpentry that I had at the top is just the framing of the walls. The trim carpentry is the baseboards, the chair rails, the doors, the trim around the doors.
Okay. Any other questions?
I got one question for you. When you come back with the green wall, which is not in his number, and let's say it costs $2,000, are you still are you gonna lower your price to $4,000 to keep it under the two?
I will, but, I will, but I've already had a discussion with D'Angelo, and he'll throw in the green wall at $2,000 within that price.
Okay.
So his revised bid includes,
So he does include the green wall in his.
he does in the revised
And
bid,
it's zero, basically.
but it's zero in the revised.
What's involved there? Removal of some concrete to provide a growth base there of
We're basically
dirt?
going to take an old cattle panel, the cattle panels, the 16-foot cattle panels that are the wire, frame it away from the wall, and then let the vines and stuff grow in the cattle panel. Trellis. The trellis, basically it's a trellis.
Has he discussed with you what he discussed with me while you were out of town, which was moving the gas meter back there?
He did suggest moving the gas meter, and that's fine. We can work around it or move it. I would go ahead and move it. Now that I look at it again, I would move it, just because it's in a bad location.
And Carolyn called the gas company. I forgot, how did we leave that? They're going to get with D'Angelo and talk about the specifics there, and I guess they'll charge us to move that. Now, does that meter serve just that end of the building? It doesn't serve the entire building, does it?
I have no idea. I don't have to go check what that meter serves.
Is that mandatory that be moved, or is it just a convenience item?
It's a convenience, and it actually cleans up that back area back there. Actually, I think it's leaking right now, too. Every time I'm back there, I can smell just a faint smell of gas. So I mentioned that to some folks, but it probably needs to be checked out, because it does. You can smell the gas back there. But I would suggest moving it just because it's in a bad location.
When do you think we'll know if that 5-ton unit is usable?
The existing 5-ton, as soon as I get the guys out there, kind of waiting on y'all's approval on this, and then I'll have the guy go look at it and see.
All right. What would y'all like to do here? Well, I'm going to throw out a motion here. I'm going to make a motion that we authorize this bid of $220,000 to include project management, but that does not include the green wall, right? Is he going to add $2,000 to do the green wall?
It includes the green wall.
It includes
It includes the green
It
wall.
does include the green wall.
Oh, it would?
It does.
Okay. So the motion is that we approve the expenditure of $220,000 to D'Angelo Development and Chris Basham for project management to complete the adult probation. It's not a remodel, I guess remodel of the Annex property to include all specific components listed here.
Do you want to make it for $219,990, since that's what we actually, I mean, I know it's only $10, and it doesn't, you know, it's just if y'all want to be able to say we did it.
$219,990, then I'll revise my motion.
It didn't matter to me, but the court actually approved 220 on the last time it was approved. It approved at 220.
Okay. Well, if
But
it was approved,
$10.
that's fine.
So I'll leave it at $220,000. That's my motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of the approval of this motion, which again, D'Angelo Development to be the contractor who provides these components, and Chris Basham to provide project management. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Chris. And sounds like D'Angelo is ready to hit the ground running. All right, let's...
The schedule on that is 90 days or less. He actually is putting together a schedule for me, so I can kind of give everybody and report back to you guys on how he's coming along and when he's going to be done. But
And the storefront just includes that portion, some 30, 40 feet wide? What is that?
correct, it's 32 feet wide.
So we'll have a nice new storefront in the midst of old down there on the corner for the time being.
You know, Judge, one other thing, and I don't know that we pursued this option, and I don't know that it's eligible, but like you said, the whole purpose of all of this was for security in the courthouse. I want to check into seeing if the security fund monies are eligible to be spent on this project.
Well, we will have some components that aren't included here, and that's fine, but we'll come back at some point and we'll need to approve some video surveillance in here, some automatic locks.
I don't know exactly what, I mean, that may be the only thing that security fund money can be used for, but it may also be able to be used for the fact that you're, for security purposes, moving people out of that area.
Okay.
I don't know that. I'll do some checking
Okay.
with it.
Good idea.
See what I can see.
Good idea.
Because that's money that's there that can only be used on security of some sort.
And you'll get somebody involved in helping us plan that video surveillance, because they'll obviously want pretty intensive video.
I've got folks looking at it now.
Okay.
And then also meeting with Sean, the IT guy, about what he needs. I mean, because that's not in here either. He hadn't specified exactly what he needs IT-wise, and that'll tie in with the last project, which is the courtroom. So he's looking at all of that right now.
Okay. All right, let's move on to item number 3, consider and possibly award bid or bids for remodel of the storage space in the Caddell building. Again, that was that segment of the annex that is 3.3 feet 3 inches lower that we had extended discussion on at our last meeting to provide temporary as well as long-term storage for both elections administration and possibly for other county purposes.
This was not put in the paper. This was sent out to 4 bidders that had bid on the previous projects because we were trying to get this done so they could start on it this week, so it didn't hold up the other project. So we put it out there, and I talked to all 4 of the folks. We put it out specifically to Larry Lawrence, Castletop, Richard Jones, and to D'Angelo. So all the guys that had bid on the other project, which I figured we'd get a better price, bidding on the guys that had already bidding with the guys that had bid on the previous project. We only got 1 bid in, and that was from Richard Jones. I've not had a talk with D'Angelo yet to see why he didn't bid on it. Maybe he didn't want to do it because he had the other one going. Larry Lawrence I didn't talk to, so I don't know why he didn't bid on it. Castletop did come back and say they couldn't get their bid in until today. He was out and on vacation or something. So the bids were actually due in by Saturday at 4 o'clock, an email to me. So the only one I received was Richard Jones. The budget on that project from the last commissioners meeting was $20,000. Richard Jones was at $21,000 for the scope of work that we had in there. He also has an add on there for, if we need it, a new 3-ton heat pump 13-SEER unit. Because as in the case of the adult probation, there is a unit in there that was salvaged, a 3-ton unit that was salvaged. It was vandalized also. So I don't know if it's going to work. So I asked everybody to go ahead and give me a price on replacing that if we need it. So we'll have somebody go in and check it once this is authorized. If it is reusable, we'll reuse that and we won't need to spend that $2,650. If it is not usable, then we need to put a new unit in there to be able to heat and air condition.
What about we had 3 units vandalized? What about the 3-ton unit that you're not going to use in the adult probation office? Does that give you 2 possible units to work with?
It does give us 2 possible units to work with. Because we're replacing that 3-ton unit in adult probation with a new 5-ton.
Okay.
The only thing I'd say here, Judge, is I'm not sure, I understand how Chris has done it, but I'm not sure that we should table this and be sure it's in the paper. I think you need to give everybody an opportunity. I don't know whether they will or not. It's a small job, but that's y'all's call. It's under the $50,000. It's bid out separately.
Well, that's why I was thinking just the size of it, and since it is a separate and distinct project, it's just with the
Yeah.
poor turnout we're getting from newspaper ads, and the bigger we develop our,
Yeah, it's really not a factor of whether anybody's responded to the ad, it's the fact that by putting the ad in the paper, you've given public notice to everybody.
what are we sacrificing if we were not to approve this until next Monday?
Well, when it goes in the paper, it's got to go in there twice, if you're going to go play by those rules. And again, I would contend that y'all already approved it to go direct, which we did last time. We specifically discussed not putting it in the paper and just going direct to the folks, which is what I did. And I went to 4 potential bidders, and I've got evidence that I went to those 4. If that's not enough, then we have to go back to the paper. We're talking about putting it in the paper, running it at least twice, and have to be run, I think, 2 days apart, at least 2 or 3 days apart. Play with those rules. And then we've got to give them some time to do the bid, which is another week. So we're looking at another 2 weeks minimum.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Monday's court, it would be.
Well, why couldn't you run it Wednesday and Sunday, and we've got an evening court meeting? You could ask for the bids by 5 p.m. next Monday. Tuesday. We've got a delayed court meeting on Tuesday. I personally don't think that it's necessary, but I want you to have all considerations here. Any reason why it couldn't be voted on a week from tomorrow? Because looking at this 21,000, by the time we add construction management to it, we're up, quite a bit above our original projection on that. We were hoping to keep it at 20,000 because this does not include the restroom, I think.
Yeah, this does not include the restroom.
Okay. And tell me what we're sacrificing in your mind if we delay this by a week and a half.
Well, just in all honesty, time is one of it, and which is, we'll work it. It's just that we're delaying getting the Ratliff building going until this is done. So we're delaying it at least 2 weeks, as I see it, maybe 3, which is still workable. I can work it. I think the bigger thing we're sacrificing here is kind of a reputation with these bidders, because this went out. It was discussed that we were going to go out, we were going to go direct, and we were going to get at least 3 or 4 opportunities out there, which we did. And so Richard Jones is ready to go if he knows he's the only bidder on this. So you kind of take it away from him. I mean, I understand we're trying to save the money and stuff, but
Well, I don't know that anybody'd be any lower. It's just, I don't want to forestall somebody that maybe want to do the work to know who's being bid. That's the only thing I'm saying. I want to give everybody an opportunity that wants to bid on it, to bid on it. I'm not saying you're going to get it any cheaper.
is there a way, I mean, I'm just thinking for the future going forward, is there a way to put potential bids on the county website so that people know if you want to do work? I mean, I do that right now with the federal government. They've got a website. If you want to do work for the federal government, you go to the website at any time, and anything that's out there, the state does the same thing. State does it for aviation, state does it for highway work. They don't actually advertise it in all cases. They put it on their website, and that serves as the advertisement. The only reason I say that is we go to the paper, but when we went to the paper on the demolition project, I got 0 bids. I mean, I got 0. I actually ended up on the phone calling people to get the 6 bids that we did get on demolition. So I understand the public need to make this public, and we can do that with the paper, but I really don't think the paper does it. What my bottom line is, I don't
Well,
think the paper-
whether it does or whether it doesn't, I want to see us continue to do that. On this particular job, the size of it is a reason for me to want to go ahead and proceed with this job. The credibility issue that you brought up makes sense to me. You know, Richard Jones has tried hard to do some work for the county, and he has done good work for us in the past, and he played by the rules. He got his bid in. So it's not like we didn't bid this job. I would like to see us go ahead and do this rather than wasting another week and a half going back and putting it in the paper on this size of a job.
The other thing I would say is, yes, I think putting it on the website, in addition to the paper, I mean, It would be fine, as long as everybody knows the website's been on. That is a public way for people to get information. That's where the meetings are and everything else on the website, isn't it?
It'd be one more way to get the word out, and by the time we're ready to bid the Ratliff job, perhaps we can get that on there too. I don't know how much detail you would put on the website other than, bids. We are soliciting bids at this very moment
If you
for.
like a bid package, contact Chris Basham or whatever.
Yeah.
Who manages the website for the county?
Be K-Bro, but we could get them to do that and add a link on there for construction project bidding information tab that would lead them to a page where you could give them a pretty good description of the job. It may not be as detailed as you would provide in your bid packet, but just one more way of getting the word out, or at least attempting to get the word out that we have work that we would like to be bid by county folks.
I would also recommend that we include the constantly updated contractor list, the Titus County contractor list on that website, so that anybody who's bidding it knows who else is in the county that might bid it or might be a sub to them, so we get the word out that way also. So their
You
contact.
might also put on the website, hey, we have a contractor list. It's located, or however you do that. But if you'd like on that list, please contact Chris Basham or Judge Lee or somebody. To get on the list if you're not already on it.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a motion that we, were you ready? Why don't you go ahead?
Judge, I'd like to make a motion, we go ahead and get Richard Jones to do the construction on the Caddell building for the storage.
And that's at a price of $21,000 plus construction management. I'm sorry, what did you say? Is that a percentage or a flat item?
It was 12%, but 12% of what I had was less. I'll use the lower number, so just make it I see 12% would be
Nearly 2,500.
25.
21,000 even is what the bid was?
Yes. With the potential to add for the new heat pump, but the other one's not good.
That puts you at 2,520. We'll just call it 2,500 on the construction management.
Oh, or you put it at 2,000.
2,000?
Put it at 2,000.
Okay, so you got a total, Philip, of 21,000 plus 2,000 and up to 2,650 for a new unit if that's required.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of approval of Richard Jones handling the Caddell building renovation at 21,000 plus 2,000 construction management and up to 2,650 for a new heat pump if necessary, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks, Chris. Any other details about this that we need to discuss this time?
No.
Let's talk about timing on the Ratliff in light of
The election.
election and
Judge,
yes.
If I could be excused, I have another engagement.
Yeah, sure, go right ahead. Thank you.
We got the runoffs at the 27th.
Yeah.
So this project, the storage project, won't be done by the end, but it should be done by the end of that week. I think he's got about 2 weeks to do that. At that point, after the May 27th election, then they can start moving. Doesn't there follow up in June though, on the elections? Or am I missing?
Yes, there's a city election.
City election.
Yeah. Do we know what date that is?
I don't think they've said it yet. They're meeting this morning.
I think they said the paper's going to be like the 21st or 22nd or something like that of June. And that did 20.
Okay. So does that mean really we can't touch that Ratliff building as far as moving anything out until,
I would say that we wouldn't start the contractors until July 1st, which is what I've got on the schedule right now, is trying to get it set so the contractors get the whole process of the bids and everything in June, so that they can actually start construction on the building in July, probably after the holiday, July 5th.
and that means quite a bit of moving into storage going on during that week.
June 20th and July 5th would be the movement of the stuff out there and clean out that side of the space,
Okay.
the south side.
Okay.
It actually could, they could actually start moving before then because it does not affect the operation of the election. It's just who's going to be moving it. And if you're going to county folks doing it, not the elections officials doing it, then it really doesn't matter because it can move as soon as the storage building is ready. And the stuff that's there is just storage stuff, so.
And this storage space is about 1,300 square feet, right?
Correct.
With shelves on a couple of the walls. So really, it could handle storage needs for many different departments and get us out of that upstairs of the annex area. This could provide a good, well-organized, air-conditioned space. All right, I'm going to move to item number 4, closing comments, if any. Commissioner Fields?
I don't have anything, Judge.
All right, I don't have anything. Commissioner Hockaday? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion and a second. Commissioners Hockaday and Fields, all in favor say aye. We're adjourned.